Congratulations, Hazel. Thank you so much. You are the buyer of the first Husqvarna Viking Designer EPIC 3 in Europe.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is amazing. I shall have some fun. Thank you very much, Neil. The best dealer in the UK. We're home with this wonderful machine, and I'm going to show you a little bit about it. It's been unboxed. It's a big machine, and the embroidery unit is very different to previous Husqvarna embroidery units. It's heavier and it's deeper, so that changes everything. I thought I'd prepared my embroidery studio ready for everything, but it all turned out very differently. First of all, I had to put it on my craft table because it no longer fits on the worktops that my previous machines have happily embroidered away. And I had the craft tables always sat against this wall here, but it didn't quite work because putting it at the front, I had the whole space at the back which I couldn't get to. So I've actually swiveled it round so it protrudes into the room, and I don't have a big sewing room, unlike many. So I am adapting, and it will be a continual process, working out what works best for me. So here is the lovely machine, and I must admit I'm going to show you some of its features today, but not everything. And I thought it would be a lovely idea to actually do a video diary, not necessarily day by day, but showing you my progress with understanding and using this machine, because there is a lot to learn. The difference between the EPIC 2 and the EPIC 3 is vast compared to the difference between the EPIC and the EPIC 2. So it has a special distribution unit. I think it's a power saving thing. So it actually plugs in at the side and the adapter sits on the floor. And I'm going to turn it on, and I confess I've turned it on before. This is the all-important red bracket, which sits in here. You'll find this here when you first open it up, and it pulls away to the right. And it's great. It holds everything in place, and I keep mine so that if I do have to send it away to be serviced, it keeps everything nice and tidy. So put that away somewhere safe. Now, I'm going to turn it on, and then I'm going to quickly go through some of the features and go from there. Now, it's no longer a rocking switch. It's a push-in switch to turn it on. And it's not, if you do it quickly, nothing happens. You've got to push it in and hold it just for a little bit longer than you'd perhaps think you had to do. Now, I have the bronze version, and here in the UK, that was the only option we had. We didn't have the choice of the misty blue and the plum colours, but this is me. I'm very happy with this. It's just so lovely. And as you can see, when it turns on, we've got some lovely lights at the back as well. Now, where to start? Because I'm quite happy just to sit here and look at it and think that this is mine and I get to play with it, because as you saw at the beginning of this video, I was the first person to buy this, not just in the UK, but in Europe, and that's very exciting. Good morning, Graceful Embroidery, it says, because when I first turned it on, I connected to the internet. This is a machine that will connect to your wireless internet so that you can send designs from your computer directly to the screen here. You can use USB sticks with it. There are 2 ports for USB sticks, but you can do everything over your wireless. So it's very exciting. If you're not familiar with these top of the line machines now that connect to the internet. Right. It's also exciting. Now, when it comes, it actually has this A foot on it. And as you can see, it's got a bit that you don't normally see on feet. And this is for the integrated dual feed, which is this bit here. And I'll show you close-ups of this in a little while. And that just pulls up and goes back out. So some feet do have provision for that to come in. And that means that you can get, if you're sewing several layers together, the feed dogs, it's still like having feed dogs at the top as well as underneath. Right, so let's have a look at things. I'm trying to work out in what way to show you. This is the little bag that comes with your machine, and it's got all your feet, your spool holders, and it also has the spare stitch plate. There are 2 stitch plates. One has a very wide hole and one has a smaller hole, and the smaller hole supports your embroidery, so that's what you use for embroidery. But the lovely thing about this machine is it knows if you've got something wrong. It tells you. And in fact, I turned it on this morning and it told me you haven't got a foot on because that foot wasn't on. So it's very clever and it's there to help you. Right, so that's our little bag of goodies. I'll put that there. And this is the attachment for using your older hoops, your older Husqvarna hoops. It enables you to use them on this new embroidery unit, and we're going to have a look at that now. Over there, this area here is definitely a little bit deeper. We have the same measure along the front, but here, and I'll show you this closer in a minute, we have a little notch which shows you where the middle of this, and here's the unit that joins it up, and you see the connectors here and 2 little holes here. This is very heavy. I'm not sure whether it's as heavy as the machine. There is nothing underneath it. There's no red thing to remove. It's all the mechanisms are inside, and there's a bracket here that you can actually hang it up on the wall, but you'd have to have a very strong wall to do that. And there's a mark here and a mark here, which helps you line that up. I didn't remove the tool tray. And now you can see my dilemma. I need to have lots of room. I'm going to take this away. I don't normally use this. You can sew with your embroidery unit in place. So I'm going to take the tool. I'm going to take that away. Let that pop out and swivel this round. Now, sorry about that. This is like a continuation of the embroidery unit. And this is a little bit fiddly to put in place. You offer it down like this. And then this is definitely a standing up job. You've got to get this bit over the top of that bit. So, and it will be a little bit stiff to begin with. Now, as you can see, it's gone over the top. And then you need to push it forward. And for the last bit, you grab it each side and push in. Now, that's probably the 3rd or 4th time I've done it, and it's gone in with a lot more ease. Let's calibrate it now. Much quieter. And if that's not shown on the video, I'll show it to you again in a minute from this side. Now, this machine has some very large hoops, and they are a lot meatier than the previous ones. This is the 120 by 120. This is the 240 by 150. The small one here doesn't have spaces for clips, but the 240 by 150 does. As you can see, you need room for this machine, you really do. This is the 360 by 200, and you will notice that they are not symmetrical. There's a lot more hoop on this side, and that helps everything. It helps with the stability. And then we have this gigantic hoop, and this is the 465 by 260 hoop. Isn't it wonderful? And I've noticed that when I've taken these hoops apart, their construction is different. The previous hoops were just flat on the inside and on the outside of the inside part of the hoop, but there are little ridges and places, obviously, which all help. And there's something different here, and even more so on the big ones. So you'll notice them, but they're definitely a little bit more chunky. But then this embroidery hoop is very different, and it can support, in a way, it can support these bigger hoops. So those are the hoops. Now let me just tell you about that wonderful 465 by 260 hoop. When I got my first Husqvarna machine, and that was 7 machines ago, I had the designer one. We had, if you're familiar with Husqvarna machines, it had a mega hoop, which was 360 by 150 wide. But when it slid onto the embroidery unit, there were 3 places. So you did the lower half of the design, and then you may move to the middle section, and you moved it along, and there were 3 notches for the different areas of the machine. Of the design, should I say. And I can remember when I first got my machine, I was thrilled with this big hoop. So one of my first embroideries was on that mega hoop, and it was all over the place. So as I've learned over the years, when you've got a new machine, and this is my 7th Husqvarna machine, when you have a new machine, don't do something too challenging at the beginning. Start in a small way. Put something on with your 120 by 120 hoop, which is about 4.7 inch square. So start in a little way, and that enables you to get familiar with the machine, have your manual with you, and refer to that constantly. So I'm just happy to sit here and just look at this. It is absolutely wonderful. Now, the next thing we have to do, because of those great big hoops that I told you about, we have 2 extensions, and they fit front and back. So your machine will have to sit further back from the edge of your worktop or table, whatever you're using. Mine is probably sitting a good almost 8 inches, 7 to 8 inches away from the edge. And these are marked. One goes on the front and one goes on the back. Now this is the rear one, so I'll lift the front one up and put it on the front here. And lift these hoops out the way. And this fits in this area here, and you offer it up at an angle, lay it flat, and then underneath you pull out the legs, and that increases the area and supports your larger hoops. I think you don't need them for the 240 by 150 hoop. I haven't actually worked out which hoops demand it, but obviously if your hoop is sitting over the edge, then it does. So I'll lift that up there and clip that on. And so this area supports your hoop. I'm going to move the camera around to the front now, because all you can see is me and the back of the machine, and I want you to be able to see the front. In all honesty, I really don't know where to start, if the truth be known. So here's the front, and isn't it lovely? I hope I've set the, I hope you can see this nice and clearly. It may be a bit dark at the back, but you don't mind. That's not important. The important thing is that you can see all the lovely details here. Now, first of all, the first thing you notice is that there are no buttons on the left side here. They're all on this side because this is where the projector is. I've shown you that huge hoop, which is very exciting, and I confess that before I actually set up my machine after our trip up to Nottingham and coming back again and seeing family, I sat quietly and created my first large design to fit that 465 by 260 hoop. And that will be a design from my new collection, Celestial Grace. And it won't be part of the collection because I know that not everybody's going to have that big hoop, but it will be the first of quite a few individual designs for this large hoop that comes with the EPIC 3. And I will show you that design when I stitch it out. But as I said before, I'm starting in a small way. So that big hoop, which we can see over there, is very exciting, and so is the projector. And I would say those are the two features that excite me the most about this machine. Now, I may say something rather different in a week or so's time. So let's have a little look at it all. You will notice that we now have a ruler that goes right across this area here, and it goes up to 11 inches. Isn't that wonderful? These are my top stitch needles. I get a box from Schmetz, and they are what I use for my embroidery. I was advised by Neil, my dealer, that this was the best needle for getting good results. So that's why that's out. This is our sensor Q foot, which we're going to put on in a bit. There are 2 feet for embroidery. There's a little plastic one, which is like a floating foot, but I don't recommend that you use that for embroidery if you're not familiar with this system. It's the sensor Q foot that we're going to put on in a minute that you use. And this is the bracket that fits onto the new embroidery hoop, and as you can see, it's got that clip, goes that way round, and your old Husqvarna hoops will fit on here, and then you can connect them to this new embroidery unit. And here's the lovely screen. Don't you love that pattern? Isn't it gorgeous? And round the back here, we have 2 USB ports. I can't show you because I've got it quite near the wall, and I think I may be changing it again. I think it'll take me a little while to find out the perfect combination for this design, this machine. Right. When you first turn it on, this is what you'll get. And as you can see, I have actually used it for an hour, 56 minutes it says. I've sewed together with my designer EPIC 3. Now, let me just show you something. Those little symbols at the top there, you'll notice the one that's got a picture of an embroidery machine is slightly greyed out. There is an update coming shortly. It may have, in your area, it may have already arrived. And there's another one coming in December. And some things are greyed out. You'll also notice down here that the Joy OS advisor is greyed out because that's not available as yet. So at the top there, that tells us that we're connected to the internet. That's our help, and these are our settings, which is where we're going to go now. Oh, I pressed that, that's why it told me what they were. Go away. Right, so here are our settings where we set up for sewing, embroidery, and that all-important camera and projector, which I'll show you later on. One thing I did quite like is here we can choose our language, we can choose our time format, whether it's 24 hours or 12. We can select our time zone, adjust the volume, and adjust the... I'm just going to put my camera down for a minute and adjust the light. And as you can see, I'm dimming it there. You can find the perfect light, and you can also decide whether you want your units to be showed in millimeters or inches. And when you're on a page and you want to come out of it, you just click the little arrow at the top and it takes you back. Now, on the personalize area, we see the coastal mist and the twilight plum colour themes showing up. And we've never had this before. We can choose a light version of starlight, coastal mist or plum, or we can have a dark version. I know that's very popular on the internet and people seem to love it when software is available in its dark form, but it's not my preference, I must admit. So we'll go back to the light version of the Starlight Bronze. Isn't that a wonderful name? And we can lock the screen. And you see, here's another one down here that's greyed out. Useful feature videos as screensaver. Oh, that looks fun. Have a screensaver that teaches us things. Okay, now, I haven't named my machine yet. I'm actually not a great fan of naming machines. My EPIC 2 is called Grace. My EPIC, which I no longer have, was called Graceful, and I'm not quite sure what to call this. Perhaps you've got some ideas. I did think of Margaret, which was my mum's name, but I'm not sure. But at the moment, I'm just enjoying the reminder that this is the designer EPIC 3. So we can come out of that page now. And here is where you connect to the My Sewnet, and it tells you how much space you've got left. And the Wi-Fi is where you click into your internet, and then we have machine information, and that will tell you your serial number and the firmware you have and everything. And I always take a picture of that so that I've actually got it on record which machine I've got. Right, I think it's time to put that sensor Q foot on. Now, I'm holding my camera here, and there's no way I can do this with my phone in my hand. So, and I don't think I can purchase. I'm going to stop and come back in a minute and just show you how we do this, and then I think that's probably enough for today. So much to see, so much to do, and so much to learn. This is the tool that comes in useful. It's a screwdriver, and it also opens up the bobbin area. To take the top off you just press that down and it flicks off. And then to actually remove the stitch plate, you put this underneath, and it's a twisting mechanism. And then you can change the plates depending on which one you want. This one, as you can see, has got a much bigger hole, which is fine for sewing. The one that I'd got on is for embroidery, and that supports the area here. This area here, and I haven't got a brush here. Bear with me for a minute. Take out this. And as you can see, I've got a few threads here. I stitched out. I'll move that across. And there's a little knife in here, but if you've got a nice brush, you can remove the threads, which do tend to collect here. And I made a mistake there. I should turn the machine off when I'm doing this. And that's how you clean the bobbin area. So, put my bobbin case in, and 2 little ears, bat's ears some people call them. Make sure that they're pointing to the back. This little bit holds it all in place, and then the stitch plate slots into the back and pushes down. And this is the all-important pre-wound bobbin for embroidery, and these are, as you can see, they're produced by Coles, which is my dealer here in the UK, and Nancy Brigham will actually buys them for people and sells them for people in the USA. And I'll try to remember to leave a link to that. And these are great. I buy a big box and they last me a nice long time. That goes round there and just cuts away. Now, we take off this A foot, which is your main foot for embroidery, and we need to remove this ankle. And here you can see we have a little notch. I tend to use both hands, as you can see, to do this. And we remove this ankle, which is not required for the sensor Q foot, and that needs to go into a safe place too. Now, your sensor Q foot has to sit so that this bar sits behind the clamp for the needle. And as you can see, this bit of the machine comes down and it's got a flat edge, and the flat edge goes against that section of the sensor Q foot. So you have to sort of offer it up and fiddle it about. I'm going to make sure my needle's at its highest place. The first time you do this, it can be just a tiny bit overwhelming. And no, that's definitely not the right place. Let's take the needle down and put it up at its highest. Would help if I got it the right way around. So we're trying to fit that bit into that bit there. And it can be a little bit difficult. This is I'm going to put that down. This is magnetic, as you can see. So I should have left the screw in place so it's not wandering about all over the place. I'm going to hold this where I think it should be. And I'm sure if you do have problems, I'm sure you'll find help on the internet. And I do find that just a twist of the wheel, you see that, and it goes into place. So you want to hold that in place and then put your universal tool holding the screw. Now, obviously, when you are going to do some sewing on this machine, then you will need to remove this, put the ankle back on, and then you can use all the other feet for your sewing. For embroidery, you leave this in place. And just a little check, make sure it'll all look right if you can see that the needle is in the middle of the hole here. And this is one of the top stitching needles I was telling you about. See how it's got a lovely big eye there. So our sensor Q foot is all attached and we are ready to embroider. But I'm going to save that for next time. Now, I'm just thinking, what haven't I not shown you? No, I think I've shown you enough for today. It will take me a fair old time to get to know this machine, and it will do for you, even if you've had an EPIC 1 and an EPIC 2. Have your manual beside you, or if you have a tablet, an iPad or something similar, download it to that so that when you're having a coffee or having a little rest, you can read another page or two of the manual. It is actually on your screen as well, but when you're actually embroidering, you probably need a second screen to read it. I prefer to do that. Take it slowly. This is a beautiful machine, and I cannot wait to see what I can create on here. I thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed my first view of the Designer EPIC 3. And I know you're all going to have questions for me. And just out of interest, behind me you see my Graceful Ivy collection wall hanging, which is on my door there. And anyway, have fun if you've got a Designer EPIC 3. And those who haven't got one, well, I'm sorry. But I hope that you'll enjoy my series of diary videos on my journey with my EPIC 3. So until next time, make sure you're subscribed to this channel so that every time I upload a new machine, I've got machine on the brain. Every time I upload another video, if you hit the little bell as well, then you'll be informed so that you can join me here in my embroidery studio and we can discover more about this wonderful machine. And if you're subscribed, that's great. And I would also like you to leave a comment and a like. And if you want to be a little bit more part of the Graceful Embroidery group, then I do have a private group that you can join. It's a bit like Facebook, but no adverts, and it's private. It's only actual machine embroiderers who are part of it. So look at the links under the description and you'll see all these connections. And I'm going to go off and embroider now and learn something new to share with you next time. And until then, happy embroidering. Bye.